right, it's Pipes Drums back with part two of our latest Pipe Majors forum. We've got Doug MacRae of the 78th Fraser Highlanders, Alan Bevan, Pipe Major of Simon Fraser University, and Emmett Conway, Pipe Major of Shots in Dykehead, Caledonia. Thanks again for taking the time, guys. So in the last part, we kind of talked about where we've been, where you've been, an update on how long it might take to get back together. But maybe this part we'll talk a little bit about, teachings or what you've learned from the pandemic situation. Emmett, maybe start with you. If there's been a few things that you've learned from the pandemic, what might they be when it comes to the pipe band?
It's communication. Make sure that for me, I've had to really open up a lot more communication, try to keep everybody on board, motivated, inspired when I can. And like I say, just the music side of things, like there's loads of time there till I mess about with music, and I suppose broaden the horizons a wee bit with that side of things. And just in general, it's been a tough 18 months for sure. With having no pipe bands, you actually realize how much you need it and miss it and everything else.
Mm-hmm. Doug, the 78th Fraser Highlanders, what has the pandemic taught you? What have your takeaways been from it?
There's a few, I guess, in terms of what it taught me. Well, more affirmed that the membership really loves what they do. They love striving toward a goal, and I think it was really positive to see people stay engaged and wanting to stay engaged through all of this, and that helped motivate me too to know that the team is there, ready to do some more work, even when we're in this lull. But it's I think also on a practical sense, learning the online capabilities of how we can communicate, and maybe even moving forward supplement some of our future work with Zoom style practices and engagement with the small groups or individuals in the band. So we learned a lot in those platforms, but really I think the overarching thing is what it showed me about the people on the team and how much they love what they do.
Mm-hmm. And Alan, for SFU, any learnings that you've taken away from it?
Yeah, I think so. I'm kind of in agreement with what Doug is saying about, I really noticed that, I guess it's something we all knew, like how important the kind of social component was to being in a band, whether it's a competitive band or a non-competitive band. But that's really come through. There's been times we've been running, and you know what it's like, trying to run a Zoom meeting because you don't get any kind of feedback, right? Everybody's mic's muted, and or there's a delay, so you don't even see the kind of facial expressions and the visual cues as you would in a normal conversation or when you're addressing the band in person. So it can be kind of lonely. You start thinking like, are these guys just showing up because they feel like they should or what? And then, when you give them the choice and say, look, do you want to keep doing this or do you want to just skip a few weeks? They're like, oh, no, we're really enjoying it. It's so nice to see real people, and especially when we were in the hardcore kind of lockdown. So I think that really jumped out. And then as Doug was saying, I think we've all been forced to learn, what works and what doesn't in terms of using some other bits of technology. And as bands get more and more dispersed in their membership, and you got people traveling greater distances to show up to practices, we're going to have to keep using some of these tools just to be efficient with how we do things. So, I mean, it's a great way to bounce ideas around, for one thing. If you're just kicking tunes or plugging things into different medley scenarios and bringing up sketches, it's a lot nicer to spend an hour or two on a Zoom call than have everybody drive in from wherever they live and then show up and, some of those nights you don't get anything accomplished and people drive home and you're kind of in a snit because you just, ate up your Thursday night or whatever. So I can see using it for that. I can also see using it for a lot more kind of specific playing things. Like it's basically a one-on-one session with your pipe major or pipe sergeant when they're playing along on a Zoom call. So I think a lot of the players have found it's easier to kind of lock into the style and things. So I can see doing a lot more of this kind of thing rather than just trying to get 20 pipers all at once to get, to playing together.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, but, trying to think of if you can encapsulate it, if you could pick one or two things about the best and the worst parts of the pandemic. I mean, why don't we start with the best on the bright side, Emmett? You know, what's the silver lining, and then what's also the dark cloud? What can you share with us in your experience?
Um, the good thing is probably the lack of stress over the past. Well, stress from pipe bands, obviously the pandemic, something else, but yeah, just maybe more time for me and my fiance and family and things like that. Kind of get to focus a wee bit more on yourself. Find that that's been kind of the good part of it. The worst part of it is just like I say, not getting to be in that band hall, to whether it be a good practice or a bad practice, that does bring on the stress I just talked about and the many sleepless nights. Um, yeah, just the social aspect of catching up for a beer, catching up for a kick around, or whatever it is. I'm sure everybody's in the same boat, regardless if it's pipe bands or not. It's just actually seeing people and engaging in daily normal conversations or tasks or hobbies or whatever. So I'll be looking forward to. I've enjoyed my time to clear the head and get focused on everything, other aspects of life. But I'll be looking forward to getting into the sweaty band hall again and going for it.
Alan, does that ring true with you as well? The best and worst parts. You got other thoughts along those lines?
Yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed the break just as Emmett has, and I think a lot of people have, especially if you've been kind of going your whole life from when you were, a little kid and just going hard. And it's kind of nice to hit the pause button. And, times I've had the pipe out, I've really enjoyed just playing and, enjoyed the sound of my instrument without any pressure to do anything with it other than just play for my own enjoyment. So I'm hoping a lot of people are going to bring, not just my band, but kind of globally are going to bring that back when things get going again.
Hmm. So it sounds like the kind of seeing the bigger picture of life and the art in general, in addition to competition. Does that ring true with you as well, Doug?
100%. Yeah, the competitive pipe band playing is really all encompassing, and so I think to have that opportunity to take a step back and kind of collect yourself, and as Emmett was saying, focus a bit on family and do some of these things that are important to other people in your life that are important to you. It's been a nice pause, but I also think and hope that collectively as a community, this pause is going to totally recharge a group. I think there's going to be a lot of creativity that's coming out of it. And I think that when people hit the ground running, we're going to see some really amazing things in our world. So I think that that's, this pause that we've all had to take may have some really positive impacts on the future of pipe bands, not just musically, but organizationally. I think people are thinking creatively now. So I'm looking forward to that. I think there's good things ahead.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. What bands and pipers performances, what they'll come out with in terms of creativity, and how people will respond to that. I think hopefully judges and other powers are going to be open-minded and ready for some change as well. I think seems like everyone's ready for that. So, as we move towards the end of this part and wrapping things up, your advice for bands. I mean, bands of all levels around the world are watching this. They look up to grade one bands like yours as being sort of motivators and leaders. What would be your best advice for bands of any level based on the experience you've had over the last 18 months? Start with you, Alan. What what's your advice?
Um, okay. I think we all are probably sharing the same sorts of anxieties, all of us as pipe band leaders in terms of how we get people, how we're going to get people back and keep them on board. It may be different in the sort of top grade 1 bands, because I think a lot of people are very focused on the 2022 Worlds. But after that, is there going to be a huge wave of retirements? People who like, okay, I wasn't ready to retire. I was forced to stop playing for a couple of years. I'm at least going to do the Worlds, the 2022 Worlds. But after that, then I'm going to, take up skiing or whatever I was doing during the pandemic, right? So that's something that is going to be bubbling away in the background of everyone's mind. I think my advice for getting a band started again after a big hiatus is just to try and keep it as low-key as possible and fun, and also productive when you do get your band together. I think starting up your band doing 2 practices a week or something like that, or saying, okay, we got a contest in October, so we're going to go super hard and bring that kind of pressure to the situation is going to drive people away from a lot of bands. So, I'm hearing great things from Doug and Emmett, about making it fun and bringing lots of creativity and new music and things like that. New music, as Emmett was saying, is a huge motivator for people in bands. There's all sorts of stuff that we play that, we never end up playing in public because the guys get bored of it and you go on to something else. But I mean, everybody loves learning new music in our world. So that's a big thing too. Don't just expect to start up your band and, slog through Green Hills and, last year's medley and think people are going to really have fun and prioritize it over other things they maybe been doing over the last year and a half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really, really good, insightful advice there. Doug, are you hearing stuff from what Alan said that sort of, reflects on the 78th Fraser Highlanders? Is fun going to be, or even more fun, shall we say, going to be sort of the centerpiece of your approach going forward?
Yeah, I think it's going to be sort of thinking to the original question in terms of advice. I think it's just going to, I'd suggest, and will be practicing myself, is patience and understanding as to um, understanding and appreciation of people's comfort levels as to what we're doing. And I think that we have to be mindful as leaders that everybody's experience with the pandemic has changed. We're working differently. We're spending time with our families differently. That we're going to have to integrate some of that consideration into how we lead our bands and run practices and things like that. That things have drastically changed, not just in the pipe band world. And so we want to be mindful of how we can maximize and get the most out of our players while keeping them completely happy and satisfied, knowing that, nothing replaces or is better than standing in a circle playing and rehearsing as a group, but being mindful that there's going to be other things that are competing with people's interests as we come forward.
Yeah. And Emmett, maybe close with you on your advice for others in the pipe band world and maybe other pipe majors and lead drummers. What would be your best advice for them?
Well, I'm the same page as Alan and Doug. Probably just be a wee bit more relaxed and lenient and get into certainly the first few months. It is a hobby at the end of the day, and sometimes it's very quick and easy to forget that when things aren't going well and your anxiety, stress is going through the roof. But it is a hobby. You're there for the enjoyment of it. You are a team, and just kind of advice for Alan touched on something that I've been thinking about from day one is all these bands that have been keeping it together for years, while just having their right amount of pipers or drummers, and 2 or 3 or 4 generations in pipe bands that are the grandfather, the older uncles retiring, and they're trying to push on the youth fairly quickly to keep a band on the road. It's just keep plugging at it, and if you are thinking of retiring, maybe just give it another year or two till steady the ship up, because I think we're all excited for next year, and we kind of need everybody there taking part and just enjoy it. Just like I say, just it's I'm looking forward to get back into that. It's been a great break, but let's move on, COVID. Let's get on with it.
Yeah, here. Yeah, really good stuff, you guys. And, Emmett just touched upon the real life. It's just a hobby in the end. We understand that you guys are busy too, and you've got to get back to work. And really appreciate the time you've taken to share some of your thoughts with the rest of the piping and drumming world. It's inspirational. I think, if a lot of the things that we've talked about here hold up, we're looking for a renaissance, a resurgence, kind of the golden era of pipe bands might be on the doorstep. So let's certainly hope so. But thanks again, and good luck, and look forward to hearing you out there.
Thanks, Andrew.